In association with Get a Tax Rebate, 1895 Sports, Mesa Vienna Aesthetics, CDX Security.
Okay, welcome to the Oddball Woody Show. I nearly said the Mickey and Woody Show then, but which was previously the Mickey and Woody Show. But unfortunately, my little mate Mickey's had to drop off due to commitments away from here, really. He's got his gym up and running and the rugby season's ready to kick off. So after a little think, and, I really enjoyed the last previous 14 shows, decided to go it on my own. And I'm going to be honest, I'm pretty nervous today because I've not got anybody to bounce off, but I have got a great guest on here. Formerly an Emmerdale actor, Andy Sugden, 2019 Strictly Come Dancing winner. He's into his racing and he's formally just finished a race now as he's speaking to us. And that is Kelvin Fletcher. How are you doing, Kelvin?
Not too bad. What a good introduction that were, eh? Thank you for
that. Like Michael Parkinson, people have compared me to. But no, mate, it's great to get you on because we've had Johnny Vegas on before, but we've not had an actor as in like a soap actor. So it'd be interesting to get your background, really, because what I'm really interested in is the fact that, I compare it, no matter what we do, to get to the top level, you've got to make some really big sacrifices, and you've got to prioritise your career to get to the top. And you've been at the top in terms of, Emmerdale's one of the big soaps in the country that's televised on our televisions. And I say, no matter whether you're an actor, you're an engineer, you're a rugby player, you're a footballer, you're a darts player, whatever it is, I think to get to the top, you've got to make some sacrifices. So it'd be here from an actor's point of view and, the work ethic that you guys put in. Because I know that, the hours that you guys work are very, very strenuous and long. So it'd be great to get that insight from you and, to see where you've had challenges throughout your career and, the ups and the downs. So I think, first of all, I'll ask you, you're an Oldham lad. I said previously, just before we come on, I thought you was from Leeds with being mates with Sam Burgess and the Burgess boys and Alex Simmons and stuff, but you're an Oldham lad. So tell us what it was like growing up in Oldham.
It was amazing, great. I still live in Oldham currently, and I'm very proud of my roots, I guess. Growing up, in the late 80s, early 90s in Oldham, I was in a pretty rough area, I guess, area called Durka. But for me, it was a great community. People who worked hard, didn't really have much, but, what they did have, they made the most of. And you could always knock on next door neighbours or anyone on the road and, they do anything for you. And that sense of community, I think, is, what's... Oldham's great for, and I'm sure there's, I've got a lot of friends in Bolton, in Wigan, all over really. A lot of northern towns, they've got that especially, but all over the country. So yeah, very proud of my Oldham roots, and it's being an actor from Oldham. It doesn't really. Most people who come from Oldham who want to do something with a hobby, it's either rugby or, football or something like that. And you wouldn't really put drama acting with a town like Oldham, but you'd be surprised because there's a lot of actors who come from Oldham. There's something about the water in Oldham, I think, that there's an awful lot of people who've gone into performing arts and done very well, that have hailed from Oldham. So I'm just kind of one of many really who have I guess learnt the trade. I went to an amateur dramatic society, if you like, Oldham Theatre Workshop when I was a kid. That was obviously in Oldham, with no aspirations to be an actor, to be a TV star or anything like that, other than it was just another hobby. I played rugby league for Oldham St Anne's. That was my local club. I think I had a couple of little spells with cricket and football, and like any young kid, it's always good to have a team environment and a team sport. And then there was a drama class up the road as well, and I just thought I'd give that a go. Like I said, with no aspirations other than just to give it a go. And if I'm honest, you know, it's changed a lot now. But back then, there was only probably a couple of guys into a class of maybe, you know, 2, 3, 4 times the amount of girls. So as a cheeky little kid, I was always had my one eye on the girls. So I was probably went there thinking, oh, I've probably got a good chance of pulling a girl here if there's only a couple of lads. And the other lads, you know, quite often in my industry, you know, we're batting for the other team anyway. So it was like, oh, right, you know, easy pickings. So that was always a joke that I have with a few of my friends. But no, it was a great introduction, obviously into acting, into drama. But I think I still teach now, voluntary with a few charities and do drama. I think drama is a great thing. You don't necessarily have to want to be an actor. That's somewhat irrelevant. It can, especially with children, it can really help you with your self-confidence, with your social ability to mix and immerse yourself into whatever environment you're in. You know, you're often, as an actor, you're mixing with people who are fellow working class, like I consider myself, and then, you know, middle class and upper class, and people from all different walks of life. You know, heterosexual, homosexual, different different sexes, also different ages, all sorts of different backgrounds. And I think I've been used to mixing from being a young kid, and I just think it's really, really good for your self-esteem, really good for your confidence, and that's what I always instill to the kids I teach now. You know, you don't necessarily have to want to be an actor to get value from drama and from performing arts. You can help with your self-esteem and your confidence, and learn to and have an accepting nature and quite a wide scope for, you know, seeing all that's wonderful and different that we are as people.
It's just listening to you there, you know, talking about, you know, working class background and, you know, Oldham. I live in Wigan myself, and it's very, very similar in that respect. But, you know, being from a working class background and being an actor when, you know, predominantly Oldham, and again, going back to Wigan, it's pretty much rugby, football, sports, wrestling, you know, that type of thing, very manly working class areas. Did you ever encounter any stick or a form of bullying because of what you did?
Yeah, you know, I'm always reluctant to say it. Yeah, you would consider it bullying looking back, but that's such a, you know, that sort of term I use. I almost kind of only save it for what you know, proper bullying, when it's physical, when it's absolutely getting you down and it's upsetting, which is probably wrong, really. You know, any sort of, when you're being stigmatized, when you're being made to feel that you're lesser because you do a certain thing, I guess that is bullying. So when you look at it like that, then yeah, you know, I have been, and I was consistently throughout my adolescence. But I honestly, genuinely feel the benefits now, because my resilience, you know, it's a very lonely career as an actor. You know, yourself as a team player, you're used to being around people, and what you do is not really subjective, you know, to a certain degree. If you keep dropping the ball, you're probably going to get dropped, you're not going to make the side. But if you're performing and doing your job for the team, and you're a good player, you're going to get picked. You could be the best actor in the world and not necessarily get the gig, not get the job. So it's a very lonely career, and you're always at the mercy of somebody else's decision, and that decision is a subjective decision. You know, whether they feel that I'm good for that particular role. Somebody else might think, oh, he doesn't look right for us. We want somebody who looks a little bit more aggressive or looks a bit softer, or whatever their reasons are. You're on a lonely road. So on that lonely road, and as a professional trying to make your way, you are going to get dealt with a lot of rejection and a lot of adversity. And I think that bullying that I had as a kid, I feel like it, you know, put me in good, you know, stood as good preparation, really. I was always a little bit different. You know, I was small, I was tiny, I was really, really short, really, really skinny as well. So naturally I was a target for weaker people, really, you know. And I always try to use that and galvanize for myself, really, going forward. You know, I'm a bit of a strong character, and I would never shy away from any sort of conflict. But I didn't go out and seek that, really. So I just saw it as challenges. Yeah, there's been plenty of times when I've been called certain names, and when I was prancing around on a stage, doing pantomimes and whatnot. That's what I loved. It was my hobby, and I loved pretending to be somebody else. But yeah, there was a few guys and, you know, girls. It wasn't just exclusive to the guys, you know, who would call me stuff, and back then you were called a puff and things like that, and you probably wouldn't dream of saying anything like that now. Well, hopefully not, but back then that was all very much what I got used to being called, and it didn't really bother me, really. There was times when I probably did get a bit upset, but I had a really good family around me and a good mates, really. And my family were very much, Kelvin, whatever you want to do, if it makes you happy, then go and do it. If I wanted to be an actor, if I wanted to prance around on a stage, if I wanted to go and play rugby, if I wanted to be the Prime Minister, whatever I decided I wanted to be, my mum and dad were absolutely, fully behind me. So looking back, the name calling and the cheap jibes in the playground, I kind of water the ducks back. But I did at the time, think if I probably weren't as resilient, then it would get some kids really down this, and it's a shame because I've seen it myself when I'm teaching. I remember teaching a young lad a couple of years ago, Madlow in Oldham. I think there's one in Wigan, actually. There's one in Bolton. It's Oldham spelled backwards. Terry Flanagan, Mark Flanagan's dad, was instrumental in the formation of that. And it's basically a community centre that's in the centre of Oldham for underprivileged kids. And it's to give them a bit of respite, a bit of an opportunity, free of charge to use. There's physical activities you can do there, football, climbing frames, there's all sorts of stuff. Get that team environment, get that self-esteem, build it up and feel like you're part of something, and you give these kids a little bit of significance. They might feel washed out elsewhere, but at least here in this club they've got they feel loved, and there's food there, there's all sorts. And I went in there with an idea of teaching drama, and there's a kid who used to come, and he was absolutely brilliant. He just had this aura about him, and you could give him a scenario. We do improvisations, and whatever the scenario might be, you're at a bus stop, somebody's approached you, and you've got to start arguing. Go. And these two kids in their adolescence would just creatively think of something, and one guy would say, well, why have you just looked at me like that? And the girl would reply with something else. So all these random improvisations that kind of test your imagination, and a great tool for actors. And then when we'd stop, he'd tell me about what he's been up to and stuff. And you could tell he was a bit of a rough kid, and I had a real soft spot for him. And then after a couple of weeks, he stopped coming because he was telling me that the lads give him shit for doing it, and he's never going to be an actor anyway. So what's the point? And it's always a real shame when you hear little stories like that, because to be brought away from something that you're quite passionate about, you never know where that could have led. So, to anybody out there who's, if it's a lonely road, whatever you want to do, whether it's sport, acting, studying at home, doing your own work, you just got to do it. If it makes you happy, then just put up with the flack that you get, and it'll all be worth it.
Yeah, it is a tough one. You know what? I'm sat here now, and my little girl goes to dancing, and there's a couple of lads in there. And when I'm sat there, they do a performance show every year in St Helens, and there's a couple of lads on the stage. So there's probably about 50 girls and 2 lads. And sometimes I sit there and I think, do you know what? I wish I was more like them 2 lads. Them lads, to me, are like so inspirational, because I would have been that kid if I enjoyed dancing growing up where I grew up, and the lads would have treated the piss out of me for doing it. I would have completely stopped doing it. I would never have done it. There's no way I'd have done it. And that's probably one of the reasons I played rugby, because it was sort of one of the ways of wearing that mask and sort of being this tough guy that I wanted to be portrayed of. But even today, I can't get up on a dance floor and dance at a wedding or a birthday party because I'm scared of what other people are going to think to me. And it's, you know what, it's such a sad thing that when we have to be in that frame of mind, that we're so worried about what other people are going to think about us.
Yeah, it's a great quality to have. I always say consideration is key. If you've got consideration and empathy, then without sounding too cliche, the world would be a lot better, a better place. It's all about considering others and considering your actions and the impact it has on other people. And the opposite to that is not giving. What's different to that, should I say, is not giving a monkeys what anybody thinks of you. So I've never bothered me what people think of. Yeah, there'll be certain times when I'm, you know, you take things personally, but you've got to have that resilience and that courage, I guess, you know, that brave nature, male or female, is to not bother what anybody thinks of you. If they think that you look a prat or you look silly or whatever, then so be it. You've genuinely got to seek what your own pleasures are, and, you know, and your own idea of escapism is. And if you let people, like you say, you know, as a kid, laugh at you and go away from something, it's it's a travesty. It's just not on, especially for kids. They've got to be able to allow to do what they want and do what makes them happy, you know. And if we can all do that, then, like I say, it'd be a lot better place.
Yeah, I mean, take this podcast for example. You know, I was in two minds whether to do it, and to be honest with you, we've done 14 shows, and I really enjoyed it. I love speaking to the guests. I love listening to them back and sort of critiquing what I'd done myself and where I needed to improve and what I thought I did well. And I really wanted to carry it on, but I nearly never carried it on because of what I thought other people would think of me. You know, so even now as a 38-year-old guy, I still carry that thing around with me. But again, going back to what you're saying, I completely agree. I think there's a balancing act between caring what people think and also just not giving a monkeys about what people think of you as well.
Yeah. And honouring yourself, really. You know, if you obviously your actions, you want to consider other people, but if what you're doing isn't harming or affecting anybody else, really, then yeah, you know, you've got to honour your own being and your own value, really. And if that's prancing around on a stage pretending to be another character, for me, that's what I wanted to do, and that's what, you know, to this day, I'm at a racetrack now, so I'm in my wife's car here. I've been racing today, but you know, that again is something a little bit niche and a little bit different, but it's a dream that I guess that I had, and I just wanted to follow it. And I've had many people saying, you know, well, what are you doing? You're wasting your time, or you shouldn't be doing this, or you're not that good. When I started racing, I was the guy on TV, so people couldn't wait for me to fail, because if I succeed in racing, having been a successful TV actor, then they felt it undermined them, so they want me to fail. Do you know what I mean? And then you ask yourself, why am I doing this? You know, nobody wants me here and everybody wants me to fail, but I wanted to do it, so I continued, and now I'm kind of just reaping that hard work, really, you know, because I'm starting to come through and people are now taking me seriously. But it wasn't easy, and it was never kind of put on a plate.
I mean, we'll touch into further into your career in a bit, but I think for me, that's what makes you an interesting character, is the fact that, you know, you've done a vast array of things. You know, looking at your CV, you know, you're acting, you're racing, you know, you've done the Strictly Come Dancing, all these challenges that I suppose, you know, are a challenge to you, really, and people can make a bit of an opinion and take the piss out of you, but you're still doing them. Onto your acting, what did it feel like to sort of get into your first proper acting job? Because for me, there's a couple of things what stand out, and it were great for me, this looking at the research, because I remember these programs when I was a kid. Like, I still call Emmerdale Firm, because I was watching it as a young kid. But, you know, cracker, heartbeat.
Yeah.
But the big break come when it come to one of my classic guys. I used to watch him on Blind Date. That's how far I'm going back. But Jeremy Beadle, when you co-hosted, you've been framed with Jeremy Beadle.
Yeah, that was, as a kid, I was a pretty prolific in a sense of my work, you know. Started acting when I was 6 or 7, when I started going to Oldham Theatre Workshop. And back then it was a case of, you got yourself an agent. They were quite easy to get. You literally have your headshot done, you know, and that was it. So commercials, TV jobs, You've Been Framed, Corrie, Emmerdale, whatever it were, the casting directors would have a physical idea of what they wanted there. Or sometimes it was obvious, you know, an 8-year-old boy playing somebody's son, you know, they can't go to a 16-year-old female for that role. It's got to be, you know, a young boy. And then you'd be sent into an audition room, do your lines, do your piece, and then away you go, you know. And 9 times out of 10, to this day, it still happens. It's a no, you know. It's and it's you dealt with that rejection, that redirection, I like to call it now, but ultimately it's rejection. It's a no, and, you know, we'll be in touch. And they never do, you know. So it's pretty soul destroying, but getting my first job. I'm trying to think what my first acting job was. I think it was a little presenting role in Saturday Disney or something like that. But the stuff there with Jeremy Beadle, I was a big fan of his show. You know, You've Been Framed, and we used to watch it as a family. So then when the audition came that they wanted a young lad, it was all set up who would be in the audience. Jeremy Beadle would come out and somewhat arrogantly say, "It's not easy, this, guys. You sit there at home in the audience thinking anybody can do this. Nobody can. It's only me that can do this. I'll show you an example. Who thinks I can do this?" And nobody daren't put their arm up. And then there's a little cheeky kid who puts his arm up. And he says, "Do you honestly think you could do my job?" And he says, "Yeah." He says, "Well, come on then." And he's expecting this young kid to fail and get all overwhelmed by the live audience and the live TV and all that. And back then, this probably went out to 15, 20 million people on a Saturday, Sunday night. You know, it was a huge show. And the blag was this. It was all scripted. I went there and I stole the show, and I was this confident, you know, competent young presenter. And all I remember from that was, first of all, meeting Jeremy Beadle and him being a lovely guy. So being pretty starstruck. And I went in with a toy car at the time. I was obsessed with cars and everything. I had an 8 or 9 year old, I think I was, and I had this toy car with me. Why my mum and dad let me go to an audition with a car, I don't know, but it ended up getting me the bloody job, because Jeremy Beadle says, "Oh, I can see that you're into your cars." And I was like, yeah. He said, "Well, that car you've got there, I actually got the real life version. It was a Lexus. What was it? And it was some really cool, like, futuristic Lexus car." And lo and behold, he took me outside. My mum and dad were there, and the director, and the actual real life version was stood there from the little model car that I had, and I couldn't believe it. Anyway, got the job, did the filming, and that was kind of the start of some big kind of shows that I was doing. And then I did, obviously, Cracker with Robbie Coltrane. I did a little scene with him. And, you know, that series, I think, was created by a writer, Jimmy McGovern, a Liverpudlian, who's had an amazing career. And I'm actually working with on something else separately, but how it's kind of come full circle has been great. So yeah, from being a young kid, I was gifted these amazing opportunities on some really big shows, and it just gave me more and more appetite to continue doing that. Not necessarily be a big famous actor. I just wanted to keep on acting and keep having these experiences, really, and, you know, these little challenges, if you like.
I love what you said though about, instead of rejection, redirection. You know, it's just
Well,
that
when you've had as much as me, you need to start trying to put it into a positive, because I've had that much. I thought to myself, I'm going to have to change my mindset here, because there's only so much a man can take.
And again, it's just a play on words, isn't it? You know, you change one word for another. But again, you know, I'm a big believer in, like, things do happen for a reason. And, you know, that the fact that you went to an audition with a Lexus, and then Jeremy Beadle had the exact same car. Do you know? Are you into that type of stuff where you think, you know what, there's fate, things happen for a reason, and, you know, that gives you sort of a break in the acting?
Yeah, I do. You know, I think you got to be prepared and have belief, you know, and work hard. But you look, fate, call it what you will, I think does have a lot to play. And there's been instances throughout my career where I look back and I just think this was just, it feels like it was meant to be. You know, you thought there about the Jeremy Beadle thing, but even Strictly as recent as that, you know, those circumstances were just bizarre, how it all came about, you know. And again, that was after 3 times I got rejected. You know, 3 times I auditioned for Strictly Come Dancing. I'd always said to my agent, of those kind of entertainment reality type shows, that was kind of the only one that I would really genuinely consider. The other ones are great shows. I've had friends who've done them and done exceptionally well. But for me personally, it's not something a route I wanted to go down. You know, I'm an actor, and that's, I feel like, the only thing I can do, really. And some even say I'm not very good at that. But, you know, that's as an actor, that's why I left Emmerdale. I wanted to test myself. You know, it's all right me sat there watching a BBC drama or a Netflix show thinking, I could do that. I could do that American accent. I could play a serial killer. I could play, you know, whatever the character is. Well, I know I can, and I think I can, and I believe I can. Nobody else does. And that will never come to life unless the one thing I have to do was to leave my Emmerdale contract, and seek that challenge. And that's why I did it, because I wanted to play, I wanted to do theatre, I wanted to do film, I wanted to all these different experiences that I don't think I'd fully succeeded in what I wanted to succeed in my career without doing that. So yeah, that's kind of what I went out to do. And you dealt with rejection throughout, so that's just part and parcel of it. And there's certain times in your career where you think this was just meant to be. There's so many things there that have, where it's all been in line. You just think this is crazy, and hopefully it's maybe a bit of karma for the good things I've done. Maybe, I don't know.
At Get a Tax Rebate, we make it easy for you or your business to claim back thousands of pounds in tax. Most people, like Jane and Philip, don't realise that they are owed money from HMRC, so they never claim. All you need to do is fill out a simple form on our website and we'll do the rest. It's that simple. We've also helped business owners claim back millions of pounds in research and development R&D tax credits. So if you're working in a business or own one, contact us today to see if we can help you claim back tax and improve your cash flow. Get a Tax Rebate, your tax refund concierge.
(1895) Sports and State of Mind, the ultimate lineup.
Macy Vienna Aesthetics, based in Wigan. For all your wrinkle treatments, dermal fillers, lip enhancement, energy boost injections, immune boost injections, please visit us on Facebook or Instagram at Macy Vienna Aesthetics.
CDX Security, proudly supporting Rugby League.
What you were saying there about Strictly Come Dancing, that you actually auditioned for Strictly Come Dancing, and they refused you 3 times to do that show. I thought that they'd sort of be kicking your door down to get you on, but there's even rejection from that.
So did I.
What was the reason for rejecting you?
I remember leaving Emmerdale, and then I think I was inundated with offers to do various shows like that. And at the time, I just wanted to take at least 6 months out. I just started a family, and since being 8 years old, I've been in Emmerdale 20 years. I was 12 when I started Emmerdale. I was 32 when I left. I'd never had more than 3 weeks off work. I just wanted to just not do anything. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just said to my agent, let's just take a bit of a breather here and let me just figure things out. To be honest, I don't even know if I want to act anymore. It's all I've known. It's all I've ever done. I love writing. I love the idea of directing. I just don't know what I want to do. So we'll just take a breather. And, obviously I was aware of Strictly Come Dancing. It's a massive show, but a fantastic show as well. And I think as regards to credibility, that is kind of the one that the annoying thing about the British industry, if I was to go and do a Big Brother or something, the industry, it's almost like career suicide. It certainly was back then, which is stupid. If I do Big Brother or some show, whatever it is, it doesn't make me a bad actor overnight. But unfortunately, the repercussions are, if you go down that route, you really limit your opportunity, your further opportunities going forward, because for whatever reason, but the bosses who be the casting directors, the directors, the producers, the creatives, don't consider you going forward. And it's very much told, don't go down that route if you want to do big drama. I wanted to do drama film, and I was told that don't do that because you won't work, which I used to pull my hair out and say, well, I'll prove them wrong, because why? In America it's different. Why? And I think it started to change over here, and rightly so. Because like I say, it doesn't make you a bad actor. If you go and do something like that, it doesn't mean that you're a bad actor. You're just showing more of you're choosing to show something a little bit different, and that's to everybody's, everyone's got the freedom to do that. all the different reality shows, I'd actually personally said no to them because I personally didn't want to do them. And then Strictly came and asked for a meeting, and I met up with them, and I thought I was auditioning them, whether I wanted to do it or not. And it turned out they were auditioning me. So I was like, all right, okay, this is how it works. And I said, it's the unknown. I've never danced. I've never done a cha-cha or salsa. I love the idea of it. I love the show. And I've always sat there at home thinking, I'd love to do that. And, I'd do quite well at that. Why? I don't know, because I've got a bit, I feel like I've got rhythm. I feel like I grew up listening to music, Northern Soul, Motown. I just feel like I've got music and rhythm in me. And every time when you go to weddings, you don't want to get up and dance. I love getting up, mate. Especially if I've had a few beers. I love getting up, boogieing. So what better way to go and have a boogie than on a, big TV show? And I saw it as a challenge, and, weirdly, that is on its own, credibility-wise. It's kind of heads and shoulders above any other show. So I almost felt, well, at least it ticks that box, that my agent will be happy that I'm not doing another show. So anyway, for whatever reason, they said no. The year after, I was in contention again. They said no again. And then last year, I was in contention again. I think it was July. And this was on the back of probably a year and a half, 2 years of I'd had the odd couple of little job, but nothing really of any real substance. I've been offered quite a few roles, but they just weren't right for me. And I was just kind of still, that amazing, great acting job that I left M&L for was still evading me for some reason. But you've got to be patient, and that's that. I knew that, and I'm prepared for that. And then, Strictly came back and said that somebody had been injured, and would I like to go on the show? So it just goes to show, was that fate? Because a few weeks before, when I'd auditioned for them again, the third and final time, I'd kind of said to myself, if I don't get it this time, they know what I'm about. They've met me. They know me. They've never. I think I did a little dance on the third audition, but prior to that, they'd never seen me dance, and I wasn't amazing. I just did a little. I can't remember what dance it was, a salsa. I don't know. I did about 3 or 4 steps, and that was it. That was my audition. And so it was weird when I got that call. And the show had already started, the cast had already been announced, and then suddenly somebody's injured. You're in, and so I wasn't. I was kind of the rejected person. They'd had 3 opportunities prior to that to have me, and for whatever reason, I wasn't right. I didn't take it personally. They might have wanted. I don't know what they wanted. I don't know their mix. I'm not privy to their conversations that they have. They obviously want to have a mixture of sexes, a mixture of different backgrounds in a sense of actor, footballer, singer. They want to do all that, and rightly so. And unfortunately, prior to that, I'd never kind of made their final 16, but I got my chance, and the rest is history.
Do you know what? Somebody got sacked. I reckon somebody got sacked after that, because for you to get rejected 3 times and then go on and win it. When you won it, some producer must have said, "Who rejected this guy 3 times?" And they must have lost the job on the back of that. But are you looking at any other reality TVs? What if you could do one reality TV show? What do you think it would be that you'd like to do the most?
It would have been that. I did it. The other one that I really enjoy watching is the SAS. That's for me is away from my career. My as a career as an actor, I just want to do acting. That's all I want to do, really. If I got asked to go and do a jungle now, or go and do a period drama for 3 months, the period drama would excite me so much more than the prospect of jungle. Personally, I'd just be looking at what gains are there to go and do the show like that. Whereas with the acting, it's something I do it for free. It's just something I love. But the SAS one I watch, and I think to myself, what an opportunity to go and test yourself. Physically, you can test yourself. I've run marathons, I've done all that, and that's a kind of mental challenge as well. But you're going there and testing yourself physically and mentally, and you're pushing your body to places that you've never been before. It's probably different for you, and I've got a lot of friends who play sport, as you alluded to before. As an actor, as a that pretty boy dancing around on stage when I was a kid, I've never had a chance to really push myself like that. I've always had to go and seek that challenge. Week in, week out, you guys, you know, mentally you're fatigued, physically you're absolutely fatigued, and you've got that battle going on with yourselves every week where you just push on and push on. And I've always envied that because I've never really had that as an actor. You know, mentally I've had tough times, but physically there's no job that's really physically drained me as such. So yeah, I think that SAS would be one where I'd really I'd love to see what it'd be like in that sort of instance.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the SAS one is definitely one that I enjoy watching. We had Ellen Skelton on, and she completed the show, and her and Richie
She was
come
brilliant.
on. Oh, absolutely fantastic. And I can see like that a lot of the attributes in her that I can see with yourself, you know, where you like that challenge and, you know, you want to really push yourself, and, you know, just some of the stuff that you've said, you know, about walking away from Emmerdale, that, you know, you do have that self-belief as well. So, you know, I think if you was to go on to something like that, I think you would do really, really well on the back of it. Just on that, you know, growing up, you're into your rugby league and stuff. Is it sort of, is your racing car driving now? Because as you've just said before, you know, you've just finished one of your races. Is this sort of your adrenaline rush, where you try to seek that adrenaline, or I don't know, maybe you get it from acting? Do you get that adrenaline rush where you get that big, you know, the nerves and the adrenaline's pumping before you go on stage? I don't know. Are you looking from a different angle?
I've never really sought a rush as such like that in a sense of, maybe I am subconsciously and I'm just not aware of it. I don't. It doesn't register as an adrenaline rush that I'm chasing, that I'm seeking. It's just a challenge. It's the something that I enjoy first and foremost. You know, I love cars. I love engines. I love motorbikes, speed, anything like that. And a few years ago, I just thought I'd give it a go. You know, I've always fancied myself as a bit of a driver, and, you know, put it to the test, get your license, and see what you're like against people who race. I've always loved to do it with sport, but one, I'm probably, you know, to have ever done anything professionally, but I could go play in amateur sport, amateur football, amateur rugby, but there's too much to lose, really, in a sense of I'd be a target and I just get my head taken off every week. And do I really want to do that? You know, no, I don't. You know, it's not. It's not in the right spirit of the game, I guess. But with the racing, that was just something I wanted to try out and give it a go. And it's kind of now become something completely serious and somewhat another career. Do you know what I mean? So I certainly don't go for my adrenaline now going racing, because it's too much at stake. There's sponsors commitments, there's contractual, commitments. And I'm there now kind of, not as a job as such, it's still somewhat a hobby. I really enjoy it. But my thrills now just come from watching my kids go down the 20-foot slide thinking, oh shit. That's, that's the biggest thrills I get now, heart in your mouth type moments. Because in the race car, if you got in the passenger side, you probably have that adrenaline rush. But for me, it's very much, it's neutralized now. It's what I'm used to. And I'm not seeking a thrill. I'm trying to be as fast as I can. And I play golf every now and again. I don't get a big thrill when I'm doing that. So yeah, my thrills now just come watching my two kids fucking go down crazy slides and do stuff that toddlers do.
What will happen when you get back into like a full-time acting job and with the racing? Is that still something you'd be able to do, or would you have to sort of decide on one and the other?
Yeah, we've not come to that yet, thankfully, but I guess there will be a time where, at the minute, I've been able to juggle, and the acting jobs and the racing stuff has not kind of overlapped, and when it has, we've managed to kind of find some, figure something out. But if I always run this in my head, if I had an amazing film or drama opportunity that clashed with the deciding weekend of a championship campaign, what would I choose? What would I go for? And I'm hoping I never have to make that decision, because they're both massive passion projects, really, that I'm lucky enough and I've worked hard enough, to make them both work as my living, really. That's kind of what I've done. I've taken two jobs that I was passionate about as a kid, and I'm kind of now actively doing them, as kind of full time as my job, really.
Yeah, I mean, where you was going back to, what you was saying about, getting that adrenaline rush. You could go back and play amateur rugby, or you could play amateur football. And my adrenaline rush, not that I needed one when I played rugby, because I pretty much got every emotion going and every feeling. But I decided to buy a 1000cc motorbike, a ZX10 Kawasaki. It had the power bands on and everything, which I should never have done, because for insurance reasons, it said in my contract I shouldn't have it. 3 days before we played Huddersfield in the Challenge Cup quarter-final, it decided to throw me off into a field. Luckily, 3 days later, I played a game of rugby and I got man of the match. So it become a running joke between me and my friends. Maybe you should come off your motorbike every week.
More often, yeah.
But the only thing with coming off is it costs you a lot of money to get it resprayed and fixed up. But but no, I mean, just going
when
back
you said Ed, when you said that, Woody, about me not going back playing sport and stuff, there's one thing that I'm so envious that you've got to do, and I see so many friends doing it, is that collectiveness you've got, that bond you've got with all your teammates. And this is what I think team sport, any team involved game is amazing at, and that's what I've never really had. When I go and do an amazing scene or a great lap, there's a small team there, but a lot of time it feels quite lonely. But then to go and do something and share it with a bunch of you, your fellow teammates, I've always looked on that and thought, God, that must be like those changing room moments after a big win or something like that must just be incredible, because that sort of sense of achievement, and you're sharing it with people who, that you respect as your fellow professionals. And I just find it a fascinating dynamic, and one that unfortunately, for various reasons, I've never kind of been able to have. And I guess motorsport is my closest thing to that. But motorsport's very fragmented. I'll see the guys once a month for 3 days, whereas you guys train with each other day in, day out. It's a huge part of your life. So then to get those highs, must just be absolutely amazing. And I guess, that's one thing that I've always looked at and thought, I'm so envious of that.
I suppose it has its ups and its downs, really, because I'm in a WhatsApp group with some of the past players. What we do is every year we want Challenge Cup, we have a WhatsApp group, and it's a reunion group. Unfortunately, we've not been able to have the reunion this year. So it was 10 years ago this week when we won the Challenge Cup for the second time at Wembley. And someone put the picture on of us celebrating on Wembley pitch. And the point I'm alluding to is that the ups and its downs is, at the time, it's absolutely fantastic. I think where you struggle is when you retire from rugby and then you're not in that environment, and then all of a sudden you do feel very isolated because people move on with their lives and stuff, and you don't get to see those guys or speak to them as often as you can. So the positive is I'm really, really fortunate to have that and to feel that team environment. But then when it's stripped away from you,
when it goes,
it can be quite a struggle. And I'm not the only one. I speak to a lot of ex-rugby players, feel exactly the same, and I believe it's very similar in the military. I've spoken to a couple of guys who I've worked with involved in rugby, who have had military backgrounds, and only this week I was speaking to one of the guys, and he felt exactly the same. It's great to be involved in the teams, but sort of when it's stripped away from you, it can be a difficult situation. So yeah, it has its ups and its downs, but I'm pretty much of a loner anyway. You know what I mean? I keep myself to myself, and don't really probably need to make more of an effort with some of my ex-teammates, really, other than just dropping them a text every so often. But yeah, just moving on now, Kelvin. Last coming to the end now, but I mentioned rugby there. You've obviously got a lot of
that. I'm only joking.
Moving on to okay, now that didn't go down well for me for sure. we can edit that bit out anyway. So
we'll edit that bit. Keep it in.
But yeah, you've got friends. Who are involved in rugby. Big mates with Sam Burgess and the Burgess boys, Luke, Thomas and George, and mates with Alex Simmons. I've seen you around the rugby scene a bit. I think, in fact, actually, I don't know whether you remember, but briefly said hello. I think it was in Australia at the time when I was doing a pre-season with
Yeah.
Warrington, and we bumped into you there. But he's still massively into your rugby, and he enjoying it being back on.
To be honest, I've not really seen any games this year. And last season I was a bit sporadic as well. I was a massive, rugby Roy. People always set the piss, but yeah, I was a massive fan. Rugby as well. I still go watching, my local clubs when I got a chance. And then these last probably 10, 12 years, Super League has been amazing. Watching Leeds, Warrington, various clubs, up and down, wherever I was in the country. If I was filming in Leeds, I'd go and watch Leeds Rhinos on a Friday night, or I'd go to St Helens, or basically any mates I had who I could blag free tickets, I'd just go and watch them, So, but certainly this season and the season before, I've not really been as actively involved because my circumstances have changed a little bit. I've got a young family, and getting a pass out to go and watch the rugby, or even just watching it on TV, is not easily attained. It's dinner time, it's tea time. I've got to be with the missus and that. So unfortunately, I can't really be as immersed as I once were. But for me, it's probably his best sport in the world. It's played by. I don't think I've met a rugby player or anyone involved with rugby league who's a knob. Everyone's absolutely brilliant, and players, coaches, staff. Just people who work at the clubs and that. I don't know. I just really kind of admire what they're about, and just really good, decent people. And I think it's a great sport, and I think there could be so much more done to showcase how great it is. But ultimately, I think it's certainly a sport that I'd love my kids to play. My daughter or my son, I'd love them to get involved with rugby league, and one day, hopefully make a career out of it. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the branding there of rugby league, like you get people like yourself watching it. I don't think like you was utilised enough as a star to be in like one of the biggest national, soap in the country, and to be on, primetime TV. Sometimes it can be frustrating. I don't think the rugby league use that or utilise it enough. Was you asked to get involved in any promotional stuff with the rugby?
I've been asked a couple of times. I think the RFL last year, was it? Maybe the year before, invited me to Challenge Cup final or something like that. But nothing with any real substance, And I guess, I don't know, the RFL, I don't know how close they've got their ear to the ground. Sometimes it feels that I don't know who they are. They don't watch the same sport that I'm watching, because it's almost like they've not got a clue of the sport, of what it's about, or, the people attached to it, the fan base attached to it, So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's a great shame for it not to be as big as it should be. Obviously, it's a bit different over in Australia. I've been to Australia quite a few times. Go and visit in the likes of Sam and whatnot, and you see how big it is over there, and it's just celebrated a lot more. And unfortunately, I think over here we've just tried to copycat rugby union sometimes, and I think the best way of celebrating is to celebrate the differences, not try and align ourselves, because I know that they'll look at them and think they've got big corporates, they've got this, let's try and become a little bit more them. And there's certain areas you can try and copycat, but ultimately the best way to celebrate individuality is to celebrate and showcase what makes you different, and what makes rugby league different to rugby union. Not that they should have, they're two completely different sports, but they're both contact sports. Rugby league is, for me, a lot faster, a lot more physical in many aspects, but it's the characters that play it, and I don't think the characters are celebrated. There's some amazing characters and amazing stories behind rugby league, and their reluctance is always, but we're going to sound northern, we're going to sound working class. Well, if that's the bedrock of your sport, then push it. Don't try and go elsewhere if that's not, if it is elsewhere, then great, push that as well. But don't refrain, and don't push out. You're the home of what rugby league is. If it's a predominantly northern sport, then you need to push that as well.
No, I completely agree with you there, mate. It's, you know, I like what you said there in terms of celebrate the differences instead of trying to, you know, emulate other things, you know, other sports. I think we do that massively, and you know, for me, at the moment, it's not looking something's got to give. But mate, I do appreciate your time, Kelvin. It's been a good insight into your career, and you know, just looking back there, I'll you know, I will have a listen again, but you know, the fact that, you know, you've sort of been persistent and you've persevered with your career, you know, for me, it's very inspiring. And, you know, acting's definitely not for me. One, because I can't act, but I don't like rejection. So, you know, it's been really good, but I'm going to take that term from it. Instead of rejection, redirection. So, mate, I really appreciate you coming on. It's been fantastic.
No, thanks, buddy. It's been it's been an honour to come on, mate, and to obviously chat with yourself. And yeah, without without your partner in crime, I think you're doing just fine without him. So don't worry about
that. Thanks very much. My head will be getting bigger. Not that it needs to get much bigger, but but no, I appreciate that, mate. Mate, have a good night, and I'll catch up with you soon. And right, thanks again for coming on. Cheers,
care,
mate.
Pal.